This is a tutorial on how to make wallpapers in Blender. I'll be taking you through 3 levels of complexity. And let's get into the video. Hello and welcome. In this video I'm doing a tutorial on how to make wallpapers in Blender. If anyone doesn't feel like finishing the entire tutorial and they like the wallpapers or just feel like supporting me, I'll have the link to this wallpaper pack down in the description. Got quite a selection. There's 11 wallpapers in total with different light and dark modes. So yeah, you can go ahead and check those out. So we're just gonna go into Blender. If you don't have this installed, I'll have the link to install Blender in the description. So we're gonna go ahead and delete this cube here by pressing the delete key while it's selected, and then press Shift A, and we're going to add in a UV sphere. Now I'm just gonna use the scroll wheel to zoom in, and then I'm gonna drag this tab up and change it from a timeline to a shader editor. And I'm also gonna change into Cycles Render Engine, which is here. Right, now I'm going to add a material to this sphere. I'm going to delete this principled BSDF, press Shift A again, click search, and we're going to add in a diffuse shader. We're going to add in a wave texture. Oh. Wave texture. And then we're going to plug this into the displacement and change our modes. So here. Now, we're also going to want to go into our materials tab and go to settings, and now we'll change this displacement setting from bump only to displacement only, and that's actually gonna give us real displacement. What I'm going to do next is just decrease the scale from 5 to -1.5, and then decrease the roughness, and then increase the detail to 2.6. Then I'm also going to come into our modifier tab and add in a subdivision surface modifier, and actually I'll change the roughness back to 0.5, and I'll add in some distortion and make that 0.6. And then I think we'll add in 5 subdivision modifiers in viewport, and we'll also want to do 5 for render, just for later. Okay, so we've got a kind of simple shape going here. Now we'll just position the camera by pressing Ctrl-Alt-0, and this will bring the camera to wherever our view is. So before it was away from us, and then we just press Ctrl-Alt-0 to bring it to our view. I would say everything looks good so far. Let's give it a bit of color as well. I think a blue would be nice, and let's give the world background a yellowish color. Make it brighter. That works. And we'll come into render and see everything looks good. Cool. So I'll bring the camera around to the back here, because as you can see we're getting a quite interesting pattern back here. And I'll press Ctrl-Alt-O. and I'll adjust the camera slightly by moving on the x-axis, pressing G and then X, and then G and then Y to move it. And yeah, here we have some nice positioning for the camera. And this looks quite good. So I'll go over to render image. And everything looks clean for this one so far. I'll just wait for that to finish rendering and get back to you. So as far as render settings go, you're going to want to change the settings based on your device. I'm going to change mine to GPU compute. And I'm also going to go over to performance and change the tile size to 256. And that should be good for most NVIDIA GPUs. And then I'm also going to go over to the scene or the output properties tab, and then change my resolution to 4K UHD TV. And so that's just going to give me a high resolution and a 16:9 aspect ratio. And now I'm going to press render image or F12. And then this is just going to render the image for me. Great, now once you've done that, you just want to go over to this image tab here and then press save as, and then you can save the image as you need it. Alright, so we're going to click back on to the sphere and we're going to start changing some more things up. So I'm going to disconnect this displacement, and I'm now going to delete this diffuse shader. I'm going to add in a subsurface scattering shader and plug that into the surface. I'm going to add in a displacement node and then put the wave texture into the displacement. Change the scale to 10. Change the distortion to 26. Change the detail to 3.6. Now remember, your values don't have to be exactly the same as mine, you know, because there's no correct values to use here. It's all subjective, and we don't want this to be plugged into them. We want it to be plugged into height. And as you can see, we're seeing now a way more complex structure. Yeah, and it does look pretty cool, but we're not going to stop here. So we're also going to add in a noise texture. And now I'll plug this noise texture into vector, the vector input of the wave texture. And then just adjust these figures again. So our scale is going to be minus 0.6. And that does look pretty cool already again. Yeah, I mean, honestly, in the process of making wallpapers, like, you'll find lots of interesting and cool abstract shapes that you'll just want to keep or save, even if it's not your final intention or completely unexpected. So I'm actually going to save this because I think it looks pretty cool. So I'll press Ctrl-Alt-0 to position the camera. And I'm also going to go ahead and render this. Okay, so while it's rendering, you might be able to see that we're getting a few of like these bumpy patterns here. If you want to try and reduce that, what you want to do is go into your settings and then change your subdivisions, increase them. I find that 7 subdivisions works best for me. If you're doing 8 or 9, you're quite likely to have your device crash, so you don't want to do that. But yeah, we'll just wait for this to finish rendering. Right, now this is finished rendering. I'm just going to save this again. All right, so the last few steps, I'm going to increase the complexity a bit more. And now I'm going to add in another noise texture. And yeah, this is just giving us more detail. I'm going to add in a hue saturation, a brightness contrast, and a math node. Oh, Shift A, search, math. Yeah. Okay, and now we're going to plug this wave texture into this value here and make sure your math is set to add and feed that into height. Now we're just going to chain these all together like so. Feed this into value. And now, yeah, everything looks sweet. So I'm going to fiddle around with these noise values here. Go from 1 and 15.8. Roughness down to 0. And minus 0.1. Cool. I'm going to want to edit these values here. So I'm going to go from decreasing my brightness. And yeah, what this brightness is going to do is basically affect the scale. And I'm going to plug in 3.3. So that what changing the contrast should do is change the difference between the low and high points, basically, as you saw. So if you just fiddle around with it, you'll see that the extremities kind of grow. And if you do the reverse, you get the reverse, essentially. But yeah. I'm going to put this at 2.3. Yep, that looks decent. All right, and now comes the fun part of just messing around with the camera, really, and the lighting. So I'm gonna come over to the sun. Just make sure that's white. Okay. Deleted that by accident. Oops. I'm gonna move it over to this side because I'm kind of liking this side more, actually. I'm going to rotate it by pressing R and then X onto... Actually, no, yeah, this is a point shader. Point light, sorry, we want it to be sun. And we're going to want to decrease that by quite a bit. Quite a bit. I think we'll set it to 10. See how that looks? Looks okay. All right. And now I'm going to position the camera over here just so we get a better view. Okay. And just again adjusting the camera, fine tuning. You just need to get a idea of this for yourself. There's no exact position for your camera to be in. And okay, I'm just gonna rotate this a bit more so the sun is facing this more. I'm gonna decrease it even more, and I'm gonna go over to my modifier and change this to 7 in the viewport and 7 in render. Change things up a bit. I'm also going to go into my world and just change the color up to a light blue. Yep, that looks fairly good. You can also mess around with the type of subsurface scattering you have, so you can change to a Kristen Burley, which gives you an entirely different look, or a random walk, or a random walk with a fixed radius. Yeah. So I'll just leave them as they are for now, and I'll go to render and hit render image, and yeah. Okay, so now that's done, it's time for you to go and enjoy your wallpaper. And if you're interested in getting my wallpaper pack, the link is in the description. And yeah.